Hey, Tribe Builders, this is Tanya, and I am super stoked to talk to the person I'm talking to today. I literally saved him for, I think, the whole year because he's offered a couple of times, hey, Tanya, if you ever need to go through some stuff or talk on your podcast or about your podcast or anything, just let me know. And finally, I got to a point where I'm just like, okay, this guy's freaking amazing. I think he's the bee's knees. He helps me with things that I can't even explain to some people because they're just so random. I met this guy in JDC, which is honestly a third of all the people that I know or something that I talk about and talk to are in a group called JDC or were, and that was a mindset coaching program. And yeah, now he's part of a weekly group that we've been talking for probably 2 years, about 2 years, or maybe over 2 years at this point, every single Thursday. And if I had a board of directors, because someday I will have a board of directors, he's going to be one of the first people I invite to my board of directors
Oh,
because
what
he's
an
just
honor. Thank you.
yeah, and this you guys just got to hear him get that invitation for the first time. So without further ado, Mark Dalessandro. Andro. I just found out how to say his last name too, because it's really, really long and there's a lot of letters. So, Mark, hi, how are you?
So lovely. It's fun to be here as always. Thank you.
Oh my God. Okay, Mark. Tell me or tell my people, like, what do you do? What do you got going on?
At the moment, I'm a partner in two companies. One is Two Brothers Capital that I have with my brother John, and another one is DM3 Capital that I have with a couple of other people that I've met through some networking. Both are involved in real estate in similar and different ways. Um, and then,
What'd you used to do?
yeah, that's it. Gosh, I have such a
Why do
color.
like as in why do you have a capital funding company now? Because truly, how did you get that
That's
much money to have
funny.
a capital funding
So,
company?
so if we go way back, I have a college degree in how you grow sports turf. So I used to manage and
I
maintain
didn't
golf
know that
courses. I don't
either.
know if you do that. Oh, good.
No.
Yeah, I started out in the golf industry. I got out of that in my mid or late 30s, and I randomly got into the live event industry. Um, I stayed in the live event industry for quite some time. The last 10 years of the event industry, I owned my own company, and we sold that company at the end of my career in the live event industry. And then I got into real estate. So, and I was sort of getting into real estate on the way out of the event industry, in true high D on the disc profile fashion. I felt like I could do, both run an event company and get into multifamily at the same time. So,
And what does it mean to own a live event company? Like, what does that mean?
so my business partner and I, Michael Viljoen, started a live event production company that was focused mostly on the technology. So we owned a bunch of audio, video, lighting, and staging equipment. We owned some, like some drapes, just some soft goods to get through some smaller corporate events. But we did mostly corporate events, not so much concert, but we did have the opportunity to work with some A and B list artists during certain events. So
That's super cool. And
mhm.
so you really just did a lot of the behind the scenes of events, like again, corporate
all
events.
all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see or hear about unless it goes wrong, and then everybody knows who you are. Yes.
And do you have you felt what's one really good lesson you figured out from being in the events industry?
Wow, there are so
I bet
many.
you there's a
If
lot. You
if
can
I
you can
just
name a couple if you want.
so one of the best parts about the event industry is an event has a hard start time and a hard end time. And what that does, and it's compressed, right? So what that does is it takes all that pressure and it puts it on the whole team. So you really know who people are, like right in the event industry, because there is no lack of no pressure. You got a window to get it in and up, and then you have a window to get it executed, and then it's got to get out for the next person. So everybody's you get to see people at their best and their worst at the same time. So you really get to know who people are. And look, you're in the trenches. Like nobody's sleeping, nobody's eating very good. I say nobody's happy. That's not true, but everybody's just working and working and working. The hours are long, and so you really get to know who people are in that environment in a quick way. But so learnings, surrounding yourself with a good team, getting them the correct info, setting the tone for the event or setting the tone for a company, right? Setting the vision for a company. It's the same thing. Is really helpful. Getting them all the information that they need to successfully do what they need to do and supporting them when you're on site or supporting all the people in your company, right? It's all the same philosophy. So not knowing, I learned all those lessons doing events, and they all applied to running a company.
That's actually was going to be my next question.
Hmm.
What are the lessons that you learned that you now apply to your real estate companies?
Yeah, I still try to do that as much as I can. I think, with my brother and I, there's less vision and more like let's go do this thing. But with DM3 Capital, with Dan, we definitely have a direction that we're going. We have a buy box that's really tight. When we go partner with other people outside of our company, the buy boxes have to fit, the personalities have to fit, the skill sets have to be opposite and complementary. They have to have like similar visions, but very, very, very much they have to have the same like values and ethics, for us to like want to do things with them. Whether that's a vendor partner or whether it's somebody that we're gonna like co-GP on a real estate deal or JV or something on a real estate deal. All those things apply.
Why do you think that's important?
I'll tell you a story about that. When Michael and I started the live event production company, we had haphazardly done all this stuff really quickly. And the day before we were actually going to sign the legal papers, he and I went out to dinner. And I looked at him halfway through the dinner and I said, "So are you ready to get married tomorrow?" And he turned ghost white because he hadn't looked at it that way. But you're literally, when you sign legal paperwork in an LLC, you're literally getting married to whoever it is your partner is. Or even if you go sign on to do an apartment purchase or a loan, you're loaning money to somebody else. You're signing legal agreements. You're more or less getting married with those people. And it's actually easier to dissolve a marriage than it is to get out of most of those legal agreements. So, which is also another interesting. It's also very interesting.
Yeah, so it's you're saying it's really important to know the persons or person that you're going into some kind of partnerships with.
Yeah, and it's tough to, in all the hiring you do, right? You ask all these questions and you try to get to know them, and then you don't really know until you start to work with them, and that's true in partnerships too. But I think the more you can try to get to know people, the better off you are. Every like one of the I was grateful that I had Michael Villian as a business partner in the live event production company because you really don't know who somebody is until there's a ton of pressure. There's a ton of financial pressure on the company, right?
Hmm.
When there's revenue coming in and you can spend money and everybody's going out to dinner, there's nobody's got any problems that you can't solve. But like when COVID happens and the live event industry is completely shut down and you have no revenue and you have no idea what you're going to do with all the people, you really learn who your business partners are.
Yeah, I bet. Do you have any tactics for people like that don't know somebody or, they meet somebody at a meetup and they both seem very aligned and they both like that's what they want to do, they want to go buy apartment buildings or, storage units. Do you have any tactics or really good questions or something to actually vet those people? Because you're right, until there's nasty pressure, you can't figure that out. So how would somebody underwrite another person to figure out if they're going to be a decent partner?
Mm. So I think for me personally, I just get to try to know who the person is because if I like to be around them, they're easy to be around. Um, that's huge because you're going to end up spending a lot of time with that person, and if you don't really enjoy being around them, like you're not really going to enjoy being a business partner with them. So why would you want to go do that? I think
Mhm.
that's the first big thing. Um, I think recognizing when somebody has a complementary skill set where they're strong in some place that you're weak, that's a really good if you can get your out of your own way to recognize that can also be very, very powerful. Michael and I were completely very opposite people. Dan and I are very opposite people, but we bring complementary skill sets to the partnership that help drive the partnership forward. And as long as you can keep your ego out of it and not be a detriment to the other person's skill set, you can grow exponentially together as a group. More so for sure than you can as like a solopreneur or just doing things on your own. That's what I thought,
Ha-
but I don't know if I have any specific questions. I think a lot of it is just like what you and I do every Thursday. We just check in with people and ask
Mhm.
questions, and if you find something interesting, keep asking, and then
Yeah.
ask some more and ask them. You know me, I ask a million questions.
I
So
know, I do too. That's why we get along so well.
yeah,
So how do you guys like in your partnership, how have you gone about like divvying up work then? Like I feel like when you have a good partner, it's just kind of like a natural thing that happens, but still sometimes even legally you need to divvy certain things up to ensure that,
yeah,
there aren't any gross feelings later on
yep.
towards each other. So how do you typically deal with that and being in the couple of partnerships that you have been, some of them being very successful and long
Yeah, yeah,
standing.
yeah, yeah. Having a company that was 10 years old, I look back there like, wow, I guess I didn't realize that
That's
was rare, but
amazing.
that's rare,
It's
right?
really, really
Made
amazing.
made the Inc. 5000 once, which is also, I guess, rare. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a badass thing to
So,
be able to do.
um, I think it's okay. I have a tendency to be the one that's out front. Okay, either on the business development side or finding deals side. I was always the one out in front. So I'm always doing a lot of the work, a lot more work on the front than when something actually needs to happen. When it actually needs, like on an event, like when the event was getting executed or a drawing needed to get done or something, that was not in my skill set. But I worked really hard to get the opportunity to do the drawing or to do the event.
Gotcha.
And it's the same way in real estate. I work really hard to find deals for us to do, and then I gather all the information up and I say, okay, Dan, like, go put the numbers together and tell me whether we're going to go do this or not, or what it's worth, right?
Hmm.
I think that's part of it. When you get into actually running the company too, I think some people want to do certain things and some people want to avoid certain things. And I think just being open and honest about what people want to do and what they don't want to do is important. Sometimes in a partnership, you end up taking on something that you don't necessarily want to do, particularly in the beginning, because there's not enough people and not enough revenue, right?
Hmm.
But collectively, you all know that it's something that is painful for the person who has that as their responsibility. And as soon as you can alleviate that with some revenue and hiring some people or something to alleviate that, then you do it, or whenever it fits for the business plan or the business model.
Yeah,
But
oh,
that's
that totally makes
yeah.
sense. Have you had any really big wins with your partnerships? I mean, besides the fact I feel like the 10-year thing is a pretty
Besides
big
getting through
win.
COVID in the live event industry, um, I think there's always with when I look back at J Street Productions and that live event company, like we had this really nice long manageable 10-year growth period. We had some spurts there in the middle, but by the time we had the spurts, we were at a place where we could handle the growth, which was great. Um, on the real estate side, when I got out of the event industry, in the multifamily real estate cycle was in its worst when the worst part of its cycle. So it was hard to buy. Everything was overpriced. Nobody wanted to finance anything. The good part about that was we got to learn how to do it in one of the hardest parts of the market. The bad part was, especially for somebody who's used to turning, 100 events a year, right? You're waiting to buy. I'm thinking, oh, I'm just going to go buy like 30 buildings right off the bat. Well, no, no, it didn't work out that way. So it's a much slower turn. So how you define what momentum is or what a win is it becomes a conversation piece, and it's a mental battle. It's always a mental battle. If I had a dollar for the number of times that DM3 Capital was in the number two slot for an acquisition,
Yes.
right? We wouldn't be doing this podcast. We'd be at an island somewhere just hanging out. But
Yeah, you
but
guys
that's part of
did
it,
a lot of
right?
that.
And I think
Hmm.
now that we've had so much experience on the underwriting side and somewhat on the purchasing side, um, all of those lessons are so helpful, and we were able to turn through properties on the evaluation side much quicker. We're able to see through noise in a much, much, much better way than we were when we started. And some of that comes with just doing it and developing
Yeah.
some confidence and developing the muscles around, doing those types of things too.
You've put in the reps. I've watched it for 2 years. Well, actually more than 2 years, but you
Yeah.
put in the reps more than anybody I
Yeah,
know.
our team though
Doing an
has too, right?
LOI
And
every week.
John created an opportunity for us to start a private money lending company. He essentially said, hey, while we're learning how to do this, do you want to loan some money out? This person asked me. I'm like, yeah, sure. How do we do it? So we made a whole, that turned into a business because once, they must talk around themselves, because it happened to Travis too, right?
Hmm.
Once people find out once people that are flipping houses find out that you have money,
Hmm.
everybody wants to know if you'll loan them money. So everybody comes out of the woodwork saying, hey, what are your terms? Would you loan on this? Right. So
Hmm.
we very quickly built a business around that we never would have had the opportunity. And that also gave me the opportunity to learn like how a bank looks at evaluating a property. Right. So,
Yeah, which
and
lends a hand to an apartment being
that's
bought,
it's made
purchased.
it easier to go talk to banks about and understand how they look at things, so that when we
Hmm.
present ourselves to a bank, we maybe look a little bit better than somebody,
Yeah.
you know. So that's also been fascinating.
Yeah, I love that. I've been watching. Oh my goodness, I've been watching
Every
for a couple
Thursday.
of years every Thursday. Okay, tell me, Mark, like what do you think your superpower is?
Oof, man, that's okay. That's always a hard question for me to answer. I have a general feeling about myself that I'm sort of a jack of all trades and a master of none. Um, I've had colleagues tell me I'm like a chameleon, because I can be the one that brings the coffee to the sales meeting, even though I own the company, and I can be the one that has to walk into the sales meeting and dominate it because that's what's required.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter to me what role I play as long as the team wins, right? I care about the outcome more than I care about what my role is in it, right? It's when everybody be happy.
Yeah,
Superpower. When I ask this question to other people, their answers are, and I have this written down because, right,
of course he did homework.
right. Um, they say I'm good at opening doors that aren't supposed to be opened. I'm good at making decisions quickly based on very little info. I'm good at leadership in a variety of environments, putting together good teams of people who work well together, partnering with others, seeing the full picture and putting all the pieces together, seeing how they work together, staying calm in chaotic environments, empathy, resilience, consistency, and giving good advice. Empathy is interesting to me because I don't lead with empathy. And like you, I'm extremely curious and I ask a lot of questions, and I get extremely helpful. So
Hmm. Yeah,
those,
yeah,
those are things that other people say that I'm good at.
of course, he went out to be like, what am I good at? I can add to the list, but I can mainly just vouch for what's on there because it's totally true. Like you just have this interesting knack for breaking things down into ways that people don't like in an unbiased way, which I think everybody needs. And that's why I gave the compliment of I
Mm,
would put you on my board because you look at a big picture while somebody might be really hung up on these four details. You're looking at the 35 details all together as one big, huge map. And like, oh, what about this weakness? And what about this strength and this and that? And I think you definitely have a knack for that, which is really cool because not everybody
yeah,
can look at things like that.
I yeah, I do have a tendency to make people at least think about what their opinion really is.
Hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
some of that is the curiosity and the asking questions, but
Yeah, and you do it in a not a not a defensive way. It doesn't make people like the tones that you use. You do this to me all the time. And it's not manipulation, but at the same time, you strategically, ask questions. And I don't ever feel I have to be defensive when you ask questions, which is another talent because not everybody can do that. There's plenty of people in my life that make me defensive by asking a question, and it's, most of it is an innocent question, but you do it in a very disarming way, which makes people feel comfortable, and all because of the tone of your voice, the words that you choose to use. Like, that's pretty freaking awesome.
That's great of you to say. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm genuinely curious about why people think the way they think. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that comes off as disarming and want people like feeling comfortable sharing how they feel because I'm genuinely curious
Yeah, yeah.
because
And I don't think
it helps me
everybody.
think too, right? I mean,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure not everybody that meets you feels this way about you. I
no,
read something recently about how everybody has a different, like, you show up differently. Like, you might think you show up the same for every single person, which is really cool. There can still be consistency to all of that, but you will always be something different to everybody because one person
yep,
you might have helped and you've only met them once and they think the world of you, and this other person you interacted with 6 times, but on the sixth time you guys got into a fight because it was a contractor, because A, B, C, D, E, whatever the reasoning is, and that person will always hate you.
yep,
And I read that and I was just like, whoa, that's totally true.
that's
And
the
I
truth.
know that I'm certain that you have that because I know you've evolved like quite a bit, and that's kind of the next
Mm,
thing I want to touch on is like you have become a different human being over the last, like, I'm gonna go say 10, 15, even 20 years, from like what you were in your 20s to what you are at your age now. Can
mm.
you talk about like what you don't have to like extremely, you don't have to explain like the kind of human you used to be, but if you want to give a brief of like, well, this is what I was and I like had a hard time with, and then how you've gotten over some of that stuff.
Oh wow, that's interesting. All right, now we're gonna do some life story stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, my parents should have gotten divorced when we were kids, and they didn't. They stuck it out. They stuck the marriage out for the sake of the family. So they didn't get divorced till I was in my 20s. And by the time I got in my younger 20s, I had gotten married to somebody, and I was like, well, I'm going to show them how to have a good marriage. And 5 months and 22 days later, we were on the courthouse steps getting an annulment.
Mhm.
So that didn't work. So Mr. Young Cocky, I know how to do everything in the whole world and I don't need anybody, now has every single emotion from their childhood thrown back at them and said, "Oh, you think you got this? Okay. How's this feel?" Right?
Mhm.
I also another so I was pretty I've always kind of internally believed in myself and internally been kind of relentless when I need to be. I think relentless for me now is more of a tool than it was a default when I was younger, right? Um, so I also realized in my 30s with some therapy that I was in the golf industry to make my father happy with me and not to make me happy. So
Huh.
that sort of helped me engineer my way out of the golf industry, right? Um, yeah, realizing that it didn't really matter what I did. He was never really going to be happy with who I was,
Mhm.
or at least happy on my terms, maybe is the right way to put that, right? He was never really going to be happy the way that I wanted him to be happy, right? So
Mhm.
I got out of the golf industry and went and did something that I wanted to do for myself, which was, I started out mixing audio and just randomly got into a live event production company where the owner had gone through a bankruptcy and was getting they had three big stage vans and a small audio system and a small lighting system. So I started out in the event industry doing these really big festivals. So I'd come in and set this stage up, and then I'd stick around and ask the good lighting and audio and video companies how they did what they were doing, and I just like just
Just
curious, and that's
learned.
how I learned
Mhm.
anything I knew how to do in the event industry. Um, so it took me until all right. I will also say when we moved when I got married when I was younger, we moved from the East Coast to the West Coast to Nevada, and I had met what I now term like my non-blood family, and they truly are my non-blood family. They showed me what unconditional love is. It didn't matter what I did or how I showed up. They were unjudgmental and accepted me for who I was, and that's the first time I had been in an environment that was like that. And to this day, they are still non-blood family. If Erica
Hmm.
and I pass away, Carson's going to them. Um, and I am forever grateful for the Wilson family and for meeting them because I would not be where I am without them, no question.
Hmm.
Um, so I learned a lot about how it could be by example from them. And I clearly had to unwind a lot of my own history uh, to get to the place where I am now, which is having my own family. It took me till I was in my late 40s to even be able to meet a woman of Erica's caliber,
Hmm.
let alone keep her, make her think I was worth the journey together too, right? So it took a lot of that. And then, and I had wanted kids, and then I was like, oh, I'm old, I'm never going to have kids. And I met Erica. I'm like, oh no, I still got a shot at this because she's still a little younger than I am. And now we have a beautiful son, and I have no idea what I'm doing every day. And the moment I think I know what I'm doing, he does something where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't know how to do that. And he's grown and I haven't. Now I got to grow again, right? And so that's been one of my okay. How have I changed?
Well, no,
We,
how have you figured out, like, you just made the comment about Carson. Like, I see
mhm,
you, we have to roll with him all the time,
mhm,
because he's rambunctious and is an awesome kid. So you're flexing to how he needs to be to become a person that he needs to be.
yeah.
How are you getting these skills to figure out how to do this though? Because you reflect in ways that, most people don't. So how does that look? Who's helped you with those skills even?
Okay. Some some of it is asking other fathers that I see how they act with their kids. So when I can, I'll ask them what philosophies they use or why they said something the way they said something. Sometimes I will have like coaches. I've had a couple of coaches like shut me down and say, I got this. And then they take them off and they'll do something. And then they come back and they tell me what they did. And I'm like, oh, I'm grateful. Now I understand what you were doing. Right. Um, I have a quote here. This is from Will Smith, right? I try to remember this. It's my job to water them and nurture them into becoming what they already are, to grow into what they are versus being an image of something that I need for me to feel good about my parenting.
Whoa, that's actually really, really good.
So most of, you know, there's a whole freak out thing when he was born, like, I got to keep this thing alive, right?
Yeah.
You're high fiving yourself at year one, going, okay, we kept him alive. Yes, we made it through the first year. Um, okay, so for me, for now, he's really literate and he's really good at trying to express how he feels, even though he doesn't really know how to do it yet. So I try to create environments, and Erica does this much better than I do. I try to create environments where he can express who he is, right? I also have to I also have to temper like God, like today, right? He goes out in a blue shirt and blue pants, and he's got on his bright green Milwaukee Bucks socks, and they don't match. Like they don't match anything he's got on. But that's who he is. Like he loves those socks. I'm like, all right, I got to let him do it because
Hmm.
that's who he is, right? He loves hockey. Nobody in our family plays hockey. In our close family, like plays hockey, but he got into it and he loves it. Okay, like he just it's interesting to try to be. I thought I thought because of my example that it would be like controlling. And the more I do this, the more I realize it's not controlling. It's some of it is guiding, and most of it is getting out of the way, right?
Hmm.
Um, trying to teach him to hit a baseball because he wants to start to learn how to hit a baseball, right? And we're out in the
Hmm.
yard the other night, and there's such a balance between like put your hands here, put the bat here, shift your weight this way, versus just giving him two or three things and then letting his own subconscious body and his own timing figure it out. And then once he does that, make some suggestions about some things he might do
Hmm.
to improve his power or improve him looking at the ball or improve hit the bat staying level through the hitting zone, right? And then you got to let him figure it out himself. And that's hard for somebody. It's not natural for somebody like me who grew up in a very controlling environment, right?
Hmm. Yeah, do this. Very suggestive.
Yeah. Well,
Aggressively
look, Carson's like his
suggestive.
dad. He doesn't like to be told what to do. Don't tell me what to
Hmm.
do. Like he doesn't actually say that, but he doesn't like it.
His
So
actions always say that.
and Erica and I learned early on that if we gave him two choices or three choices and we could live with whatever choice and we got him involved, everybody's much happier. But
So,
but you got to be ready for sometimes he doesn't choose your choice A, he chooses his choice A. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely.
you got to
So
you got to go with it.
how have you applied this kind of stuff to your meetings with other people, like grown-up adults, like trying to figure out, how they're going? Like, do you kind of understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, when I started managing people in the golf industry when I was younger, I didn't have any real examples, so I would be a bit more controlling. And then getting out of that industry and getting into the live event industry, there are so many type A people in the live event industry that if I didn't change how I manage them, I never would have been anybody. They would have shut me down. And as a matter of fact, I got lucky when I started to do really large, compelling events as somebody who was managing them, that I had a group of technicians around me that liked who I was as a person because they pulled me off to the side and they would say, dude, listen, this is how you're coming off and you don't need to be involved in this. You need to trust and it's going to be okay. And I had to learn that. That's something that I had to learn. And I'm grateful that the team I had around me when I really started to do compelling things in the event industry
Hmm.
liked me enough to pull me off to the side and say, it's going to be okay. You need to chill out. We got this. You need to chill out. And I did, and I really did. And they helped me the other thing that they helped me to do is they helped me to work on events and not in events. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of people, and I even had to do this in my own business journey, right? That have a hard time learning how to work on a business instead of in a business. Being a solopreneur is not being the same as somebody who owns a business that doesn't need them.
Hmm.
Whole different thing.
Yeah,
And
it
and
is.
if I did the events that I produced that I did really well, I didn't really need to be there. Or if I was there, the only thing I was really doing is making sure everybody ate and bringing them coffee because they had everything else. Because I had also done a good job of saying, here's the vision for the event, here's the information for the event, here's all the logistic things that you need to know about for the event. And they did all the technical stuff and they put all the scripts together and they did all the other things around it. And I worked really hard to get the load in day and then I was out. I mean, I was there, but
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. So now tell me, all right, we're gonna like change gears now because I know the way you work kind of, and I'm curious, how has starting to build like the community that you have, like where have
mm,
you picked up the people that are in your community? Like you're talking about different partners and things like this, like you're finding people that are decent humans that you even want to work
oh
with.
yeah.
How are you finding people like this? Because not everybody has that skill.
Mm. Um, most of it is probably most of it in the beginning was dumb luck. Now it's a bit more active some of that is because I have a better definition of what I think I need and what I think I'm looking for, right?
Hmm.
Um, and when I focus on it, it happens. When I don't focus on it, it doesn't happen. So when most of it for me started, when I sold the live event production company, I had some cash, I have some time freedom. Um, I had haphazardly met the Jason Drees coaching company through COVID, and he was producing his first live event, right? And through 4 or 5 coaching sessions, I finally got to the point where I felt like I was worthy of even going to this event. So decided to go to the live event and met a different level of person than I had ever met in my life. These were people that owned their own businesses and had accomplished really great, awesome things and struggled with a lot of things that business owners had struggled with. In the event industry, there were very few people that Michael and I could have any conversation with that would understand what we were doing because we were so in this event bubble and we felt like that business model was such a unique model that the only people we could talk to were other owners and other people in the event industry, right?
Hmm.
I now know that's not really true, but that's how we felt. But so I met all these people at this live event, and every Thursday I get to sit down with 6 or 7 of them whenever they show up, which is great
Yeah.
that we've kept that going. Um, but knowing that type of person is who I needed to try to be around if I was going to grow
Hmm.
was helpful. Some of that is there were people doing things that I will never even touch there, but they were willing to like reach down and help lift me up to another level, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's part of why I also consciously try to do the same thing with people that feel like they're struggling a little bit in an area that, maybe I can provide a little help or like 10 minutes of comfort
Yeah.
before they get
I've
back
gone
into
through that
chaos,
too.
right? But for me, it's a conscious thing. And I think once you get into those circles, right, you just start asking people that if they know of somebody that has this skill set or this is working in this avenue that you could have a conversation with. More often than not, somebody knows somebody, and you're 1 or 2 steps away from somebody, but you're just asking, right? I'm much more of a one-on-one person than I am a group person,
Hmm.
right? So I'll have a tendency to try to like reach out to people individually to ask them instead of like blurbing out on some social media thing. Hey, I'm looking for this person because that's not generally who I default to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you, I mean, it seems like you get connected and then you have follow through, which is, I think, is probably the reason that you're successful with that, is because you can always ask for the thing, but if you don't have any follow through once you get the intro and actually
Yeah.
set up a time to talk to those people, I think that's like it's sad to say it's a pretty low bar because
Yeah, and
for
it's not
real,
that
like,
hard and not that time consuming to your point too, right?
hmm,
I mean, even
yeah.
even just texting somebody and say, "Hey, I'm really grateful for the time that we had yesterday. I really got this, and this out of it." Like nobody does stuff like that. It's really interesting to me that people don't do a just a small connection thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have a question about something, I don't really care about the topic.
Yep.
How do you identify who you should reach out to about that?
Oh man, I throw darts. I'll pick who I think the best person is, and then if it helps, then I'll use it, and if not, I'll try something else.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not. I'm forever curious, right? I'm
Hmm.
I'm always going to be a student. So I guess I'm always I always look for answers. How do I don't ever think I know everything.
Hmm.
I might act like it in a room sometimes. I might have some brokers that currently think that I know everything, even though you know, or that I come
Suckers.
off like I know everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I guess I'm always trying to look for something that I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like that. I have seen you do stuff like that. I you just you said something here just a little bit ago, and
Mhm.
I want to ask more about that. You made a comment that it took you a few coaching sessions to decide that you were worthy to go to an
Oh
event.
yeah.
What does that mean?
Battle self-worth, and
Really?
I will probably always battle self-worth. And most of it I keep internal because I'm pretty private.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm always going to battle that. Like I will oftentimes before I get into any room, I have to have a pep talk with myself that I'm supposed to be in that room. I'm worth being in that room. You're going to find something in that room that helps you. You're going to help somebody in that room.
Uh-huh.
And I generally have to talk myself into that. And, you know, if you, well, I don't know if you noticed that at JDC maybe, but I would pick like a small group of people and not like a big group of people. Or if I
Uh-huh.
was in a big group of people, I was standing beside somebody that I had already had a conversation with or that I felt like I knew.
Yeah,
Maybe if you look back
I I'm
on
gonna
that,
have I might have to go back and look at pictures or
yeah,
something because I don't know what it was, but obviously there was a connection made between me and you because we started this, Thursday group and a couple of years later it's still going,
absolutely.
so it
Yeah.
works. I find that to be so interesting because like I had said earlier, like what we are to somebody is going to be different to everybody of
Yep.
like, oh my God, this person helped me so much. And I think back to you and you just saying that, well, obviously the reason I was picking on that comment that you made about being worthy to go to an event, my head doesn't reconcile with that
Mm,
kind of comment, nor the kind of person that I know that you are. So it's really, really interesting. And I'm curious more of like, besides the pep talk, how do you get over stuff like that? Like you're in other masterminds, and I know you show up to things,
yeah.
but do you really like out of seven things you want to go to, you'll really only get the courage to go to one, or what does that look like?
No, if I want to go and it speaks to me, I'll find a way to go.
Hmm.
That's a general thing. So there's a difference between in for me, there's a difference between um I don't feel like I'm worthy of being in the room and that me letting that stop me from actually getting in the room and doing the work of being in the room.
Hmm.
Um, I have a tendency to just go do it anyway
Yeah.
and not let the fact that I'm scared about it most of the time stop me.
So you just do it anyway.
Yeah,
That's the mark that I know.
yeah, but you know that's generally true. That there are some things that scare me that I haven't started yet. I'm
Hmm.
hopeful that I'll get out of my way at some point, maybe start those things, but
Oh,
you
you're
know,
gonna
it remains
regret
to be
having that
seen.
conversation with me, Mark.
It remains to be seen, right? But at the end of the day, um, it's how you act. It's the things that you act on that are what drives you forward. And I logically know that, right? So it's almost like sometimes when you talk to me, Tanya, we'll be having this in-depth conversation and you'll ask me a question and I need to consult my internal board members. So I have a 13 member board in my head. And you'll see me
Oh.
and I'll look up and away for a minute and then I'll come right back. And
Mhm.
you could probably feel like my energy shifts away and then it comes right back. You're like, what was
Oh,
that?
I see
Right?
you do. I've seen you. You look a different way when you're
Yeah.
thinking. I've
So
noticed.
I have to consult like the punitive parent and the scared child and the rebellious child. And I have to like listen to all those voices and emotions in a quick millisecond and get consensus and then put it out. So, but I say that to say that's my process. But what I end up doing is I try to process the emotion first and then make everybody comfortable, make everybody feel safe, and then move forward, right? And if we're gonna bring that all the way back to like to Carson, right?
Mhm.
My default with with a lot of how he started to grow up was to yell and scream and control,
Mhm.
right? Which is nothing but fear and emotion.
Yeah.
So that's and every time I would think I'd get it under control, he'd grow, and then I'd do it again, like oh, you know. So I feel like that's going to be a constant. That's probably going to be something that that I constantly have to be aware of as he gets older and older and older. I mean, we're not even to puberty yet. Oof, you get that part of me
It's a
going and his
strong
puberty at
kid.
the same time. Like,
I
look out.
know. Yeah.
And
He's
I
just,
know this, right? So consciously, I'm still trying to grow and still trying to learn about myself so that I can be better for him. And clearly better for Erica too, right? Because
yeah.
she had some of that when she grew up in her childhood too. Not that she yells at Carson, right?
Mhm.
But that's also part of her upbringing to a point too. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And your kid is very strong-willed. I think I say
man,
rambunctious because
dude,
it's
I'm not going to
essentially
win
how
them.
I was explained when I was a little kid. Everyone said the same stuff, and I'm
Yeah,
just like, no, it just means he's full of spirit and he's wonderful and he has
he
his
is.
own, he beats to his own drum kind of situation.
He does. And to your point, like not going to win it. There is no
Well,
winning,
why do you want to?
right?
I mean,
I
why does
have
it
to
have
want
to be
him to
winning,
win.
losing?
I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
want him to
Well,
win.
yeah, absolutely. Like it's just how can you just support? Um, okay, kind of changing directions. Tell me somewhere random you've met somebody that became a friend, advisor, partner, something that like was very unexpected.
Oh my God, it's all random for me. Are you kidding me?
Give me a story or two.
I went to Austin, Texas to this weird live event and I met 7 awesome people that I now have a relationship with and we see each other every Thursday. Like that's one random thing. And nobody else is allowed in, right?
No, we
So
don't.
all right. So I'll tell you how I met Michael Villieu. I was working in Carson City, Nevada at a live event at a staging company, right? And they had these big hydraulic stage vans. And Michael was working for a company called IEP MBG. So one of his colleagues, a guy named Mark Spector, called the company, and I answered the phone. He said, "Hey, we need a stage van at LA Center Studios for the Magic Johnson Foundation's 25th anniversary special. We got a walkthrough in like 2 or 3 days. Can you get down?" "Yeah, sure." So I got on a plane and I went down, and Michael Villieu is the one that picked me up at the airport.
Hmm.
And so we go and we do this walkthrough, and very much feel connected to like the whole group of technicians that they brought down. I mean, there's 20 people from this company there.
Hmm.
And this is like a big, huge outdoor thing. They're going to have 50 million LED walls and concert audio, and I can tell that they're very well versed. That it's going to be a clean, well run event. All these things. Um, Now, unbeknownst to me at this time, this group of people is saying, "This guy Mark, we like him. If he gets us through this event in a good way, we're gonna figure out how to get him into our company, right?" So, we go through the event and it's epic, and I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. There ended up being some issue. I don't remember what it was. There was some issue with either where the stage was. There was some issue that wasn't really I remember what it was now. Somebody forgot to um, order a 29-foot light tower,
Oh.
right? And this light tower is supposed to be in the afternoon of the day that they figured this out, right? So everybody asked me if I know somebody, and I'm like, "Yeah, let me make a couple of phone calls." And I essentially like got them this 29-foot tower installed inside of like 7 hours
Hmm.
from just somebody that I happened to meet at some other event that I knew had a company in LA, right? At some other
Uh-huh.
live event that I had done with the stage van that I knew had a company in LA. And they
Hmm.
did a great job and it looked great. And it was like, "Yep, you're one of us." You're one of us, right? But that's just, like randomly, right? Michael Villian picks me up at the airport. We go do this one event together. He sucks me into this other big event in Miami. They make a job offer for me. I end up being his direct report. So I worked for him.
Hmm.
I never shared an office with anybody, and neither did he, but they put us in the same office together. Okay. We worked together for 6 or 7 years at that company. And then he and I start our own company together that goes for 10 years, makes the Inc. 5000 company one of the years, goes through COVID, and then we sold it. We didn't get bought. We sold it. We actually shopped it to sell, which I didn't know this at the time, but apparently that's the hard way. I don't know.
I
Right.
don't know about
So,
selling
so that's,
companies.
I mean, that's like a random, you know, I
Yeah.
met, I clearly met, so I met Dan Plasterer, who's one of my partners at DM3, right? I
Mhm.
signed up for a real estate mastermind thing. Inside of 2 weeks, they assigned me to a accountability pod. Dan is my accountability pod leader, right? This accountability pod starts at 8:30 at night on Wednesdays. The only two people that show up are Dan and I,
Yep, that sounds about
right?
right.
And we show up every week. So
Yep,
by
because you're consistent.
6-8 weeks, we know everything about their kids and family and history and stuff that scares us and whatever. And I know that Dan does this thing that I don't do, and he knows that I do this thing that he doesn't do. We
Yeah,
like each other. We have the same ethics. We grew up a lot of the same way. We treat people the same way. We like being around each other. Hey, let's go form a partnership.
yeah.
Random.
So really, you collect phone numbers and you just, you ask a couple of questions that actually matter to
Mm.
garner something about somebody. And then how do you remember the person or like, how do you remember certain things about them? Like, I know that you have a really big network, even though you're not talking about it as much. Because I know this about you.
It's a good
How do you
network.
keep everybody straight? Like, how do you like? Do you have a Rolodex? Like, what does that look like in the 21st century?
Man, it's just in my phone, in my head. Like it's not, and my mind does not work like it used to. So I don't know that it's as good as it for sure as it used to be.
Mhm.
I'll also say like the it took me a long time to accept this. And this is I'm going to say I recently learned this. I want to say like in the last 5 years, right? People will come in and out of your life and you'll have these really epic experiences around it, right? And you'll grow and you'll share something epic together. You'll do something epic together and then like they won't be around anymore. And I used to feel really bad and really guilty about that. And what I've realized is that there's seasons in your life and those people in that moment were supposed to be there with you and you were supposed to do that thing together. And now it's not that you've necessarily grown apart, but you just don't have that common thing together. And that doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you don't love each other anymore or any less. It doesn't mean that you don't cherish the experience anymore or any less than you did. It took me a long time to not feel guilty about not keeping those people closer to me for my whole life and just
Mhm.
recognizing that we were both just part of each other's journey. So I think some of it for me is that part of it, right? A lot of what I'm doing is like the people that are around me and in front of me for this season of my life journey, right?
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
that I don't reach out to other people,
Yeah.
but
But
I
it's
don't
just
really have a good
you.
system is the short answer. I guess that's the short answer is
It's all right. I know that if I ask you a question and I'm looking for a person, like I know you're a connector because I've seen it be done towards me. I've seen it for other
yeah.
people. I've done it for you. Like it's just that's just a thing that you do. It's just, oh, you need somebody that knows how to do this.
Yeah.
Here, I'll connect you at least with this person and this person.
You
And I
think
don't
I'm
think
good at
everybody
this?
does that.
Look, yeah, my wife makes me look like I'm a rookie. She is a master networker. She is a master connector.
I think you don't ever give yourself credit for most things, so that doesn't surprise me. And I'm certain that Erica is a badass, so because you wouldn't have married her if she wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, it's true. Okay, one of the last questions that I want to ask you is, what's the
Right.
best advice someone has ever given you that you've actually used?
Ooh, man.
Yeah.
The best advice somebody's given me that I actually use. That's a good question. I'm going to consult. I have a little I will card. I'm going to see if something the universe is saying, get out your I will card.
What is an I will card? What does that even mean?
There's a surfer named Sean Thompson
Uh-huh.
who has this one his mantra. The way that he teaches people to be better is through I wills, and you essentially go through some exercises with him, and you come up with your own 10 I wills. And I have, in true
Oh.
high D on the disc profile fashion, I have 13, not 10. Because I have to
That's true.
overachieve, right? Um, okay, I'll tell you. Here's a good story. All right, one of my event work colleagues, Kate Fee, right? God, this is so funny. Kate Fee. She and I have a client lunch. She's brought me into a client lunch. One of her clients, she's bringing me in as a technical partner. We
Mhm.
take this client out to lunch. We have this, long, epic lunch. And everybody leaves, and it's just Kate and I, because Kate and I are friends, and we've shared some, very intimate life, problems and whatever together. And
Mhm.
I'm talking about Erica, right? And because I've just met Erica, and I'm talking about her, this, that, and the other, and she looks at me and she goes, "Hey, Mark." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Just get out of your own way. What are you doing? Get out of your own way. Can you not see that Erica is the one? Just get out of your own way." Okay. So
That sounds
get out of your
like,
own way.
yeah, that actually does sound like advice that Mark needs most of,
and
yeah.
I used it. And
Uh,
I don't always use it in our marriage, but sometimes she reminds me that I need to use it too. You know?
I think you do pretty decent at
Yeah,
least.
that's a good one. That's a good
No,
one.
I love that. Okay, last question.
Mhm.
What's one thing you're looking for right now? Anything?
A capital raiser,
Oh.
which is different than, okay, I think everybody's looking for capital, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. We're also doing that like everybody else. I feel like what we're trying to do at DM3 is compelling. I think what we're trying to build is compelling. In order for us to really build that, we need somebody to focus on the relationship with the capital.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't handle the capital in the manner that capital should be treated, it isn't going to stick around. Not only is it not, it might find us, but it won't stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for that person or those sets of people. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be partners, but I think in an ideal world, it would be somebody that we meet, we like them, we learn about their life story, we have similar values, similar ethics, want the same things, they like our buy box, they like the values that we're presenting as a company. So that's what I'm looking
Cool.
for.
I'm already texting somebody. I might have somebody for you, but I don't
Perfect.
know if he is the person for it. So,
Perfect.
and
That's great.
I'm saying this literally on the recording so you know you need to tell people what you're looking
What you're looking for,
for
right?
them to help you because the universe wants to send you all these little tidbits all the time, but you have to ask for them to send said tidbits. So, just to wrap up here,
Mhm.
if somebody wanted to, reach out to you, talk about multifamily, talk about, I don't know, AV companies and stuff, or, anything
Yeah,
cool that
anything.
they might be working on, tell, like,
Kids,
how would they
raising
get in touch with
kids,
you?
riding bicycles, riding
Yes.
motorcycles, like whatever.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot. We didn't even get into any of that. But, how would they get in touch with you, Mark?
The easiest way is just to email me at mark@dm3.capital. So MARK at symbol, the letter D, the letter M, the number 3 .capital.
Capital
PITAL.
CAPITAL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I get those mixed up sometimes. Awesome. Okay, this has been great, Mark. I appreciate it so very much because I'm serious when I say like you are one of my board of directors, whether you like it or not. I think you kind of like it because I just bring you along for whatever, whatever, and you're just like, okay, sounds good, Tanya.
Um,
So I do appreciate that very much, and I appreciate you hanging out with me on an episode of Tribe Builders. So
it will be
thanks.
an honor when it happens. I'm going to hold you accountable for creating something that needs a board. And I'm also grateful that we get to hang out together. And I'm grateful that you are able to bring the best out of me. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you guys, this guy, he's in a group that normally he's the only dude that shows up because the other guy, he has seasons as well, and he's in a season where he can't come to our calls most of the time. So this brave man hangs out with 4 to 5 very strong-willed women every single Thursday, and he just kind of chuckles his way through it. So
They
he's
are
amazing.
very, very powerful. It is
Yeah, it's
intimidating to be in
intense.
that group and comfortable at the same time,
Yeah,
weirdly.
it's kind of an intense group of
Mhm.
ladies. So, well, everybody, if you know, need somebody to talk to about multifamily, or if you're looking to even get into multifamily stuff and maybe just want to partner with some people, you should reach out to a guy like this because he has put in the reps, and that's the cool part about him. So, thank you very much, Tribe Builders. I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.